So let's talk about the board action regarding elder care facilities. And we're going to now be able to have these in more parts of Arlington. How is this
exactly
work?
right. Yeah. So, 14% of Arlington County's population is over the age of 60. And when you talk about housing forms, a lot of times that population needs housing that is accompanied by some kind of support. There is a whole continuum of what senior care or long-term care can mean. It might mean fully independent living facilities. It might mean nursing homes. It may mean continuing care where people can stay in one place and access a spectrum of support. But you know that we've seen relatively few of these. We have relatively few of these in Arlington County. It's something we hear from a lot from our older residents or from our residents who maybe have a parent or loved one they'd like to be able to locate in Arlington. We have had, frankly, a lot of barriers to where these facilities could be built. And so the biggest action that we took yesterday was simply legalizing or allowing these types of housing in about 14 different areas throughout the county that already allow multifamily developments, will be able to allow this type of development. So a great example of the first thing we needed to do is just get out of the way of the market supplying that. The next step, of course, will be what role the county plays in making sure that these types of elder care facilities are not only realized throughout Arlington, but that they're serving the full income spectrum of Arlingtonians.
You mentioned that there have been barriers historically. What were some of those barriers? Why were they there in the first place?
Well, why is a good question.
Okay.
Okay, why is a very good question that we were never able to get a satisfactory answer to. But, as Katie was mentioning, we have multifamily development that's allowed in numerous zoning districts in our county. And yet, the senior facilities were only allowed in a small minority of them. And no one could quite go through the zoning history as to why that came to be. And certainly, it doesn't make any sense. Why in the world we would, not allow, multifamily forms that don't have any functions that are deleterious to a neighborhood. Why in the world would this barrier exist? But it was a true barrier, and one that we only found out because of the particular interest of an applicant for pursuing care, only to find out they couldn't do it. So, we don't know what are the untold opportunity costs of not having done this before. But, if the best time to have done it would have been years ago, the second best time is right now. Right. So we're moving forward.
And I think, too, this is, I'd liken this to an effort we made at the other end of the age spectrum when we realized that there were a lot of barriers in our zoning ordinance and code to childcare. And in this case, too, with elder care, what we learned, or how we learned it rather, was by listening to the business owners who wanted to be able to provide this service or housing, in this case in Arlington, and hearing from them. I have a great site, for example, off Lee Highway, where I'd love to do this, but it's not allowed. Much as we learned from childcare providers saying, I found a perfect spot for a daycare, but I couldn't open because of X or Y barriers. So I think it's a great example of how, with these uses, we're really looking to our business community to help educate us about some of the obstacles that can be removed.